This is the Washington Times front page for Tuesday, January 30th, 2024. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. Top U.S. officials have vowed to retaliate against the Iran-backed Shiite militias thought to be responsible for a weekend drone attack in Jordan that killed 3 U.S. troops. Ben Wolfgang reports those same U.S. officials reiterated that the U.S. doesn't want escalation or a direct war with Iran. That signals that the administration is once again eyeing the kind of retaliatory strike that hasn't slowed the militia and rebel groups tied to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. President Biden met Monday with aides, including National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, to discuss options. The most recent attack means that U.S. forces are now clashing with Iranian proxies in at least 4 countries: Iraq, Syria, Yemen, and now Jordan. The social media app TikTok and China-based parent company ByteDance remain under intense scrutiny in Washington. Ryan Lovelace reports lawmakers and regulators are reviewing ways to restrict the app over data privacy concerns and fear that the site could be used as a conduit for influence operations. TikTok CEO Zhao Zichu will head to Capitol Hill along with top executives from other social media companies this week for a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing about the app's potential harm to children. He was peppered with criticism on his last visit to Congress in March, but the grilling led to little substantive action to limit TikTok's reach in the United States. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas criticized congressional Republicans ahead of an impeachment vote against him, saying he wouldn't countenance politically motivated accusations and personal attacks. In a 7-page letter, Stephen Dinan reports he detailed his lengthy resume in public service and his role in managing the border over the last 3 years. He said he'll keep at it, even as Republicans press on. Mayorkas said any solutions beyond his efforts will require new laws from Congress, something he's working on with a bipartisan group of senators. The House Homeland Security Committee is scheduled to vote Tuesday on 2 articles of impeachment against him. Ranked choice voting, where voters pick their favorite candidate on the ballot and rank their preferences of the rest, is expanding nationwide. Susan Ferricchio reports advocates say ranked choice is nonpartisan reform that gives voters more choices and leads to better, more issues-focused campaigns and fairer outcomes. Critics say the method is confusing, could lead to disqualification of ballots, and allows marginal candidates to prevail over the top preferences of most voters. 50 cities and counties will use ranked choice voting this year, and Alaska and Maine will use ranked choice for statewide offices and the presidential election in November. And finally, Valerie Richardson looks at West Virginia's efforts to pass a so-called Women's Bill of Rights. Republican Governor Jim Justice threw his support behind the effort, which would establish only 2 sexes for purposes of state law and would define male and female based on the sex listed at birth. The measure would change the state's definitions, which could be used to prevent state prisons from admitting male to female transgender inmates into women's facilities. Critics accused Republican legislators of pushing an anti-transgender agenda. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcast. Just search Washington Times in your favorite podcast app. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.